I stood at the altar watching her walk toward me in that $8,000 designer dress, the one I paid for. The guests were smiling, the music was playing, and everything looked perfect. But she didn't know what was coming. Hidden beneath the polished surface of this picture-perfect wedding was the truth. A betrayal so deep, it left scars on my soul. She thought she had it all figured out. But in a few moments her carefully crafted lie would unravel in front of 200 people. And I would be the one holding the match. 2 months before the wedding, everything seemed perfect. Or at least I thought it was. Charlotte and I had been together for 5 years. We met at a high-profile charity gala hosted by one of my business partners. She was working in PR for a luxury brand and glided through the room like she owned the place. Elegant, confident, and devastatingly beautiful. Our connection was instant. Charlotte had this effortless charm, the kind of charisma that made people lean in when she spoke. And she was smart, razor-sharp with a sense of humor that caught you off guard. I fell hard and fast. We moved in together after a year. I was doing well with my real estate business and Charlotte was quickly climbing the ranks in the PR world. We bought a house together. Well, technically I paid for 80% of it, but her name was on the paperwork. A year later I proposed at our lake house under the stars. She said yes with tears in her eyes. That was last summer. Now we were 2 months from the wedding. A $150,000 event at an exclusive mansion downtown. 7-tier cake, imported roses, a jazz band, the whole 9 yards. Charlotte wanted the works and I didn't hesitate to give it to her. Because I loved her. Or at least I thought I did. It started with a phone. Charlotte had left it charging on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. I was sitting at the island, scrolling through my laptop when her phone buzzed. A text from Mason. At first I didn't think anything of it. Mason was an old friend from college. Or at least that's what she told me. But the preview on the lock screen made my heart hammer in my chest. After the wedding we'll finally have everything. I stared at it for a full 5 seconds, my brain trying to process it. Then her phone buzzed again. I can't believe he's still so clueless. We'll be set for life soon. My mouth went dry. My hands were shaking as I reached for the phone. Charlotte's lock screen code was the same as her birthday. 0212. It opened immediately. And that's when my world collapsed. Months of messages. Dozens of photos. Voice memos. Financial transactions. Charlotte had been cheating on me for almost a year with Mason, her ex from college. And not just cheating, they had been planning this. Plotting. I sat there, my chest tightening as I scrolled through the messages. Once the house is in both our names, we'll be golden. The prenup has loopholes. My lawyer already found them. He's so obsessed with work he'll never even notice when I slip away. It'll be easy once we're married. I'll have his name on everything. It was cold. Calculated. They had been laughing about how I was footing the bill for the wedding. How they would clean me out after the honeymoon. Charlotte had even sent Mason pictures of the house. My house. There was a voice memo too. I pressed play. Charlotte's voice came through, calm and almost amused. He's never been my type, but he's successful. Secure. That's what matters. I sat there for almost an hour, scrolling back through every message. 4 years of my life. 4 years of loyalty, trust, and love, reduced to a financial strategy. Business deal. The sound of the shower turning off snapped me out of it. Charlotte walked into the kitchen in her robe, smiling. Did you order the sushi yet? I forced a smile. My heart was still racing. No. My phone died. I'll grab my laptop. She kissed me on the cheek and walked toward the fridge, humming softly. I stood there for a moment watching her. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I was about to marry, had been manipulating me the whole time. My jaw tightened. My hands curled into fists at my sides. I should have confronted her right there. I should have thrown the phone at her feet and demanded an explanation. But instead I smiled. Because I realized something in that moment. If Charlotte could play this game, so could I. Betrayal is a funny thing. You expect it to come from your enemies, from people who want to hurt you. But when it comes from the person you love, the person you trusted with your life, that kind of betrayal doesn't just cut deep. It poisons you from the inside out. The night I discovered the messages, I barely slept. Charlotte had fallen asleep beside me, curled up under the blankets like nothing was wrong. Like she wasn't planning to dismantle my life piece by piece. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through every moment we had shared. The vacations, the dinners, the late-night conversations about the future. Had any of it been real? Had I ever known her at all? Around 4 a.m. I got out of bed, poured myself a glass of whiskey and stood at the kitchen window watching the streetlights flicker. My mind was already working. Already strategizing. I didn't just want to walk away from Charlotte. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done. I wanted her to feel humiliated. Exposed. And that's when the plan started forming in my head. I wasn't going to quietly call off the wedding. I wasn't going to confront her in private. That would be too easy for her. Too easy for her to spin the narrative and play the victim. No. Charlotte was going to face the truth in front of everyone. At the altar. The next morning I called Ethan. Ethan was more than my best friend, he was the closest thing I had to a brother. We met in college, built our businesses side by side and had been through hell together. If there was one person I trusted to help me navigate this, it was him. Meet me at the office, I said. An hour later, Ethan was sitting across from me in my office conference room, flipping through the screenshots of Charlotte's texts. Jesus Christ, he muttered. This is calculated. She knew exactly what she was doing. He rubbed his jaw, his eyes narrowing. First things first, we protect your money. We started with the house. Technically, my name was on the deed, but Charlotte's name was listed as a co-owner because she contributed 20% of the down payment. I need to get her name off the paperwork, I said. Ethan's firm found a loophole in the contract. A clause that would allow me to reclaim full ownership if infidelity was proven before the marriage was finalized. How solid is this? I asked. If you have proof, and this is more than enough, you'll win in court. Ethan also arranged for my bank accounts to be restructured. We closed the joint accounts and transferred my personal funds into a business account under my company's name. Money Charlotte couldn't touch. She's going to notice this eventually, Ethan said. Let her. Once the financial situation was handled, I needed more evidence. Not because I didn't have enough already, but because I wanted this to be airtight. Ethan's tech guy, Logan, spent the next week downloading data from Charlotte's phone. He recovered deleted texts, photos, and even location history. Charlotte had been meeting up with Mason regularly for over a year, including during weekends when she had told me she was visiting her mother. There were photos of her and Mason at a resort in Miami. Charges on our shared credit card for room service and spa treatments. For 2 people. I don't know how you're staying so calm, Ethan said as we compiled the evidence. I'm not calm, I replied. I'm patient. I wanted to time the reveal perfectly. Couldn't just be a confrontation, it had to be a spectacle. I started putting together the envelope. I bought an expensive leather folder and filled it with the screenshots of the texts between Charlotte and Mason, the financial transfers from our joint account to Mason's Venmo, the photos from Miami and the voice memo where Charlotte said, "He's never been my type." Screenshots from her friend Lydia's Instagram story of Charlotte and Mason at a pool party, just 2 weeks before the wedding. I highlighted the worst parts, circled the most damning phrases in red. The last page was a copy of the prenup, signed and notarized. The prenup was bulletproof. And thanks to Ethan, the loopholes Charlotte's lawyer had identified were already closed. If the marriage fell apart because of infidelity, Charlotte would walk away with nothing. I slipped the folder into a plain black envelope. Ethan looked at me. This is brutal. It needs to be. I played my part perfectly. I sat through cake tastings and floral arrangement meetings. I listened while Charlotte complained about the seating chart. "You're so patient with me," she said one night while we were going over the wedding schedule. I smiled and kissed her forehead. "Anything for you." The rage burning beneath my skin was almost unbearable. But I buried it. The week before the wedding, Charlotte's mom pulled me aside after the rehearsal dinner. "You're such a blessing," she said. "I'm so happy Charlotte found you." I smiled. Me too. The night before the wedding, Charlotte was practically glowing. "You okay?" she asked. "Perfect," I said. She reached for my hand. "I know I can be difficult sometimes, but you're so good to me." I kissed her cheek. "I know." She pulled me toward her. "We're going to have a perfect life together." I held her gaze. Perfect. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in my office, the envelope on the desk in front of me. I could still back out. I could cancel everything, walk away quietly and let her think she got away with it. But then I thought about the voice memo. The texts. The way she had laughed with Mason about how clueless I was. But she wasn't walking away from this clean. The funny thing about betrayal is how quiet it feels before the storm. The morning of the wedding, everything looked perfect. The sky was clear, the venue was immaculate, and Charlotte was glowing. But beneath all of that, beneath the polished smiles and the expensive decorations, was the weight of the truth. A truth she was about to discover in front of everyone she knew. Ethan's guest room was dark except for the pale blue light filtering through the blinds. My head was clear, sharper than it had been in months. Today was the day. I sat up, rubbed my face, and took a deep breath. Ethan's voice came from the hallway. Coffee? Absolutely. I stepped into the kitchen where Ethan was already sitting at the counter with his laptop open. How are you feeling? He asked. Focused. Ethan grinned. Good. He slid a sleek black envelope across the counter toward me. Everything's in there? I asked. Everything. The texts. The financial transactions. The photos. The voice memo. The prenup. It was airtight. I opened the envelope and flipped through the pages one last time. My stomach curled at the messages from Charlotte to Mason. After the wedding we'll have everything. He's so clueless. This is going to be easier than I thought. I closed the envelope. My hands were steady. My heart wasn't even racing anymore. You sure you want to go through with this? Ethan asked. Absolutely. I slipped the envelope into the inside pocket of my tuxedo jacket and stood. Ethan watched me. You know what's going to happen when this blows up, right? I smiled coldly. That's the point. The venue was already buzzing with activity by the time I arrived. Charlotte had chosen one of the most expensive wedding venues in the city. A historic mansion with marble columns and a sprawling rose garden. It looked like something out of a magazine. Guests were already arriving, dressed to the nines. My parents were standing near the entrance, talking to Charlotte's parents. My mother smiled when she saw me. You look handsome, she said, straightening my tie. Thanks, Mom. Charlotte's mom came up behind her. Oh, you look so handsome. He pulled me into a hug. Her breath reeked of champagne. You're such a blessing, she said. Charlotte is so lucky to have found you. I smiled. I know. Charlotte's mom beamed and wandered off to mingle with the guests. You sure about this? Ethan asked quietly beside me. She deserves this, I said flatly. Hey, just making sure you're not having a last-minute change of heart. I turned toward the garden where the chairs were set up for the ceremony. No. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. An hour before the ceremony, I was standing with Ethan and my groomsmen near the altar when the wedding coordinator rushed toward us. Charlotte just arrived. My groomsmen straightened their ties. Ethan gave me a pointed look. Charlotte's limousine pulled up near the garden entrance. She stepped out and I'll admit she looked stunning. Her dress was an ivory silk gown that hugged her figure perfectly. Her hair was in soft waves around her shoulders, her makeup flawless. She looked exactly like the kind of woman every guy dreams about marrying. Except I knew exactly who she really was beneath that polished exterior. She smiled when she saw me and walked over, her heels clicking against the marble. Hi, she whispered, kissing my cheek. Hi. Are you nervous? I smiled. Not at all. Charlotte beamed. I can't wait to marry you. Neither can I thought darkly. 15 minutes before the ceremony, the guests began taking their seats. Charlotte's college friends were lined up, taking selfies in front of the rose garden. Her co-workers were already drinking champagne. My side of the family was more reserved, quiet conversations and polite smiles. My dad gave me a small nod from the third row. Charlotte's father was standing near the entrance, beaming with pride. I stood at the altar, hands clasped in front of me while Ethan adjusted my tie. You ready? Ethan asked. Absolutely. The officiant arrived and gave me a warm smile. It's a beautiful day for a wedding. I smiled. Yes, it is. Charlotte's bridesmaids lined up at the back of the aisle. The music started. The wedding coordinator signaled for me to take my place at the front of the altar. Here we go, Ethan said quietly. The first bridesmaid walked down the aisle, followed by the second. The music swelled. The guests stood. Charlotte appeared at the end of the aisle, arm in arm with her father. She was smiling radiantly as she walked toward me. Her father kissed her cheek at the altar and placed her hand in mine. "Take care of her," he whispered. I smiled. "Don't worry. I will." Charlotte's eyes sparkled with tears as the officiant began speaking. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of two souls." My heartbeat slowed. My breathing was steady. Charlotte was still smiling, completely unaware of the storm about to hit. The officiant reached the part of the ceremony where we were supposed to exchange vows. "There's something I need to do first," I said. Charlotte's smile faltered. "What?" I turned to Ethan, who handed me the envelope. "What's that?" Charlotte asked nervously. I held it out to her. "Open it." Her hands trembled as she took it. She opened the envelope and pulled out the papers. The first page was a screenshot of the text messages between her and Mason. Her smile dropped instantly. The second page was a printout of the financial transfers. Money sent from our joint account to Mason. Her hands started shaking. The third page was a photo, Charlotte and Mason together at the hotel in Miami. Gasps spread through the crowd. Charlotte's mouth opened and closed. Her eyes widened with horror. "What is this?" she whispered. "Keep going," I said coolly. She flipped to the next page. The voice memo transcription. "He's never been my type, but he's successful. Secure. That's what matters." Charlotte's face turned white. The guests were whispering. Charlotte's mother was shaking her head in disbelief. Charlotte shook her head. I don't understand." "Oh, I think you understand perfectly," I said. The officiant stepped back, looking horrified. "You told Mason that you just needed to get through this wedding so my name would be on the house," I said loud enough for the entire crowd to hear. Charlotte's mouth opened. "It's not what you think." I pulled out the final page, the signed prenup. "I'm sure Mason will be thrilled to know that the loopholes you were counting on don't exist anymore." Charlotte's eyes filled with tears. "Wait, please, we can fix this." I smiled coldly. "No, Charlotte. We can't." I turned to the guests. "It seems we won't be having a wedding today. But the food's already paid for, so you might as well stay and enjoy the party." Gasps filled the air. Charlotte's mother covered her mouth in shock. I turned toward the aisle. Ethan was already waiting for me near the entrance. "Let's go," I said. I walked down the aisle past the stunned guests. Past Charlotte's father, whose face was a mask of fury. Past Mason, whose eyes were wide with disbelief. Charlotte stumbled after me. "Wait, please. We can talk about this." I turned and looked at her one last time. "Goodbye, Charlotte." Then I walked out the door, leaving her life in ruins behind me. I got into the waiting car with Ethan. He handed me a drink. "How do you feel?" he asked. I smiled. "Free." Ethan laughed. "You know you just created the greatest wedding story of all time, right?" I leaned back in the seat as the car pulled away from the venue. "Good. Some betrayals are quiet, subtle wounds that bleed slowly over time. But others are loud. Violent. The kind of betrayal that explodes in front of 200 people and leaves behind a crater where your life used to be. Charlotte's betrayal was the latter. And after the wedding that wasn't. The fallout was nothing short of spectacular. Ethan and I were sitting in the back of a sleek black SUV, driving away from the venue. The mansion was still visible through the rear window. Guests standing in the garden, the white chairs scattered across the lawn, Charlotte's expensive floral arrangements still intact. My phone was buzzing nonstop in my pocket. Calls, texts, notifications. I ignored all of them. Ethan handed me a glass of scotch from the car's minibar. "Well," he raised his glass. "To freedom." I smirked and clinked my glass against his. "To freedom." I took a slow sip and leaned back against the leather seat. My chest felt light, hollow, but in a good way. For the first time in months, the weight in my chest was gone. "That was..." Ethan shook his head. "Legendary. The way you just handed her the envelope and walked away? Cold." "I wasn't interested in drama," I said. "Just results." Ethan laughed. "Well, you got them." I glanced at my phone. Another call from Charlotte. I let it go to voicemail. "You think she's going to try to spin this?" Ethan asked. "Of course," I said. "But it doesn't matter. I have the receipts. She can't twist the truth when I'm holding the evidence." Ethan grinned. "Still, that was brutal." "She earned it." Ethan studied me for a moment. So, what's next? I smiled faintly. Now, I watch her life fall apart. 3 hours after leaving the venue, I was sitting at Ethan's apartment, scrolling through social media. The fallout had already started. Photos from the wedding were circulating on Instagram and Twitter. Guests were posting shocked captions. Holy is he, did anyone else see what happened at that wedding? He exposed her at the altar. I'm shook. This man just handed her a whole evidence packet in front of her entire family. The audacity. A video clip of the moment Charlotte opened the envelope had already started going viral. In the video, Charlotte's face crumpled as she read the messages. The gasps from the guests were deafening. The way I calmly said, "Congratulations, Charlotte. You just lost everything." The comment section was a bloodbath. Justice served. She deserved it. Protect this man at all costs. He's single now? Asking for a friend. I tossed my phone on the coffee table and stretched out on the couch. Ethan sat down across from me. So, you're trending. Of course I am. How long until Charlotte shows up? I sighed. Any minute now. And right on cue the doorbell rang. Ethan smirked. You want me to answer it? No. I stood and adjusted my shirt. I want to look her in the eye when I shut her down. I opened the door. Charlotte was standing there, her wedding dress stained with tears and dirt. Her hair was a mess, her makeup streaked down her cheeks. Her eyes were wild. Please, can we talk? I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Talk about what? She stepped toward me, clutching the fabric of her dress. It's not what you think. Oh, it's exactly what I think. No, Mason, it wasn't serious. Really? I said coolly. Because the bank transfers and the voice memos seemed pretty serious. Charlotte's eyes filled with tears. I was scared, okay? I didn't know how to tell you. You didn't know how to tell me that you were planning to screw me over after the wedding? She shook her head. No, it wasn't like that. I laughed bitterly. Charlotte, you literally said, once the house is in both our names, we'll be set for life. That's pretty straightforward. She covered her mouth, her shoulders shaking. Please. She whispered. We can fix this. No, Charlotte. We can't. She reached for my hand. I pulled away. I loved you, I said. I would have done anything for you. But you were playing me. The whole time. She shook her head violently. I made a mistake. No, I cut her off. You made a plan. And it backfired. Charlotte's lips trembled. I don't want to lose you. I leaned in close enough that she could feel the heat of my breath on her cheek. You already lost me. Her breath hitched. And Charlotte. I smiled coldly. You're about to lose a lot more. I closed the door in her face. The next day I met with my lawyer. You have a solid case, he said, flipping through the evidence packet. The prenup covers you entirely. Charlotte can't touch your assets. And the house. Since you proved infidelity before the marriage, the clause applies. Her name gets removed from the deed automatically. I smiled. Perfect. She's going to try to fight this, my lawyer warned. Let her try. Charlotte had been counting on the fact that I wouldn't fight back, that I was too trusting, too blind. But now I had the upper hand. 2 days later, I received a call from Charlotte's lawyer. My client is requesting a settlement, the lawyer said. No. You're not willing to discuss terms? No. She's prepared to go public with her side of the story. I already went public with mine. Silence on the other end of the line. We'll be in touch, the lawyer said. I hung up. The news about the wedding spread fast. Gossip websites picked it up within 48 hours. Even mainstream media started covering it. The story of the groom who exposed his gold-digging fiancé at the altar. Charlotte's social media turned into a war zone. People flooded her Instagram comments. Trash. You deserve this. How could you do that? This is why women get a bad name. Charlotte locked her accounts and disappeared from social media. But the damage was already done. Her reputation in the PR world was destroyed. She lost several clients within a week. I heard from mutual friends that Mason dumped her. Apparently, the public humiliation was too much for him. Cold, Ethan said when I told him. I smiled. Poetic. Charlotte's parents tried to reach out, but I ignored them. They had been just as complicit, encouraging Charlotte's plans to secure her future. No, she had no future. At least not with me. 2 weeks after the wedding, I met with my lawyer to finalize the house paperwork. Charlotte's name was officially removed from the deed. I guess that's it, I said as I signed the papers. Congratulations, my lawyer said. You won. I walked out of the office into the crisp autumn air. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Charlotte. I'm so sorry. Please call me. I deleted it. 3 months later, I was at a bar with Ethan when a girl walked up to me. Hey, she said. You're the wedding guy, right? I smiled. That depends on which wedding you mean. He grinned. The one where the groom exposed the bride. Ah, I said. Yeah, that was me. Legendary, she said. You buying drinks? I glanced at Ethan, who smirked. Sure, I said. As I ordered the drinks, Ethan leaned toward me. So what's next? I smiled faintly. Anything I want. Revenge is rarely clean. Even when you win, there's always debris left behind. Shattered memories, broken trust, and the quiet echo of what could have been. But this was the cleanest cut I'd ever made. And now, I was finally ready to close the door on Charlotte for good. 3 months later. It had been 3 months since the wedding. 3 months since I had walked out of that mansion, leaving Charlotte humiliated and broken in front of 200 people. 3 months since I had reclaimed my house, my money, and my dignity. 3 months since Charlotte's life had started crumbling around her. And I was doing just fine. Better than fine, actually. Business was booming. The real estate market was hot, and I had closed 2 of the biggest deals of my career in the weeks following the wedding. Apparently, my Groom of the Year stunt had boosted my visibility in the industry. People loved a scandal. And they especially loved a man who came out on top. I had spent the last few months focusing on myself, working out, getting my mind right, and spending more time with Ethan and my other friends. And then there was Claire. Claire was a friend of Ethan's, someone I'd met at a party a few weeks after the wedding. She was different from Charlotte in every way, down to earth, funny, and refreshingly honest. We'd been out a few times already. Nothing serious, just good company, easy conversation, and a lot of laughing. She didn't ask me about Charlotte. Didn't pry into the details of the wedding. And that's what I liked about her. She saw me, not the drama. But Charlotte wasn't done yet. As, of course, she wasn't. It arrived on a Tuesday. I had just finished a meeting with a client when my assistant handed me an envelope. It was handwritten, no return address. But I recognized the handwriting immediately. Charlotte, do you want me to toss it? My assistant asked. I shook my head. No. I'll read it. I waited until I was back at my office to open it. James, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but please, just let me say this. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I have to try to explain myself, even if you hate me. When we started dating, I really did love you. Or at least I thought I did. But somewhere along the way I got scared. Scared that I wasn't enough for you. Scared that if I didn't secure something permanent, something financial, you would leave me. Mason was a mistake. A horrible, selfish mistake. He made me feel safe, but I know now that it wasn't real. You were real. And I ruined it. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know that it wasn't all a lie. Charlotte. I sat there for a long time reading the letter over and over. It almost sounded genuine. Almost. But Charlotte was a professional manipulator. And I wasn't falling for it again. I pulled out my phone and sent her a text. Got your letter. Thanks for the closure. I wish you well. I didn't get a reply. And I didn't care. A month later, I was sitting at a rooftop bar with Claire. The city lights stretched out below us, and the evening breeze was cool against my skin. Claire leaned against me, her hand resting on my arm. Do you ever think about it? She asked. About what? Charlotte. The wedding. I shook my head. No. She smiled. That's impressive. It's not impressive, I said. It's just over. Claire studied me for a moment. So, what's next? I smiled and took her hand. Anything I want. Ethan told me later that Charlotte had tried to reach out to some of our mutual friends, but no one wanted anything to do with her after the wedding disaster. Mason had ghosted her completely. Charlotte had to resign from her job after several clients dropped her firm because of the bad publicity. The house. Gone. I had the deed transferred into my name within 2 weeks of the wedding. Last I heard, Charlotte had moved back in with her parents. It was almost sad. Almost. But I didn't feel bad for her. She had made her choice. And now she was living with the consequences. 6 months after the wedding, I got a call from Ethan. "You'll never guess who I ran into," he said. "Charlotte." "Yep. At a networking event. She was with some hedge fund guy." "Good for her. You really don't care anymore, do you?" "No," I said. "I really don't." "Man." Ethan laughed. "I think you won." I smiled. "Yeah," I said. "I did." 1 year after the wedding, I was standing at the edge of the lake where I had proposed to Charlotte. Claire was standing beside me, her hand in mine. "I don't know how you stayed so calm," Claire said. "It's not about staying calm," I said. "It's about knowing when to walk away." Claire smiled. "And now?" "Now." I looked at her. "Now I'm free." And for the first time in a long time, I really was. Think.